I don't really believe people understand actually how big a situation this is.
Throughout the 2022 American Sprint Car season, tyre supplies have been scarce. The predominantly used Hoosier tyre brand has struggled with stock.
Well, there definitely is a supply issue with raw materials,
along with their fair share of delaminating issues, whilst American Racer has also become victim to material shortages.
I don't know how long this lasts. I don't know how long this demand curve is going to stay where it's at.
And while the American season wraps up, the Australian season is only just beginning. With record low tyre counts and record high prices.
Have they seen the price of right rear tyres at the moment?
Yeah, maybe show them that it's going to cost $1,500 a heat race.
The issue isn't affecting just the small outfits, but the big teams too.
Man, if we don't get any tyres in the next 4 or 5 shows, we'll be out as well.
Longtime crew chief of the East Coast Pipeline Racing number 7, Nick Speed, suggests it could be time for change.
Most people were quite aware of it last year, so we've kind of started to gather as many tyres as you can, so to speak, and just conserve what we did have, and just obviously on the bigger races use your better tyres, so to speak, and then the lesser races, try and use some of the used stuff a little bit.
Your team seems pretty well funded. You guys have been running for a long time and always hit the major shows. What would your tyre bill be like normally?
So I reckon it's between 25 and 30 grand. That was probably 4 years ago. Obviously the tyres have gone up, they're gone up a little bit, but obviously this last tyre increase is significant, as most things are. The price of diesel, wheels, just everything, air freight, everything's gone up. So I'd say right now, if we were to do 40 races a year, we'd be well and truly, wouldn't get any change out of 30 grand.
If you're doing, say, a local race up there in Queensland, what would that cost for you to race? Not just with tyres, but with fuel and all your other costs as well.
You probably got to, honestly, with a decent motor that runs, you got to look at $2,000 a night to run that, and that's after you do 15 or 20 nights of that motor, you got to rebuild it. So you kind of get that invoice and calculate how many nights you used it, and that works out about $2,000 a night, roughly, providing it's nothing major wrong with it. It's just a standard freshen up, so to speak. Then you got $300 for a drum of methanol, diesel to get there, depending where it is. Obviously, you got to put tyres on it, wear and tear on your car. So look, without tyres, you're probably average. So you got to say, being generous, probably $3,000 a night. Without tyres, depending on, last week at Toowoomba, we didn't touch tyres. We've been there and hurt tyres. And a lot of the tracks we know we're going to where we may or may not hurt tyres. So, some nights you have good nights with tyres, and obviously some nights, the weather can be a factor in that. And, it doesn't matter what the track does. It's 35 degrees and 30-kilometre-hour winds, that makes it hard for the track curator.
So a recent email from the Queensland Sprint Car Club said that Hoosier will now only be selling tyres at the track, $700 for a WAV right rear and $600 for a left rear. Can you explain for the people that are going to watch this, what is a WAV right rear Hoosier tyre?
WAV's just an 18. It's the tyre that Hoosier have been building for Australia for quite some time. It's the same as the HTW that California used to run for a long, long time. They run. It's the exact same tyre, stamped HTW, Hoosier Track West. WAV, I don't even exactly remember what WAV stands for, but the only way you can buy a WAV is you buy it through Max, or the Hoosier dealer being Max, Dumsey. If you try and ask for to buy a WAV in America, they won't sell it to you. It's a tyre that you have to buy through Max. Our rule book says you can only run a WAV tyre on the right rear, or equivalent, which is an American Racer MC2 or a 38, SD38. So I don't think I'm not sure what's going on with that Dirt X tyre exactly. You can obviously run harder than that in either compound, but that WAV tyre is obviously very expensive, and you can only buy it through Max.
So am I right in saying that a WAV is quite harder than the RDs that used to be run?
Yeah, WAV is equivalent to a D15 in the other language. We run an RD12. We used to run RD12s.
You can't run them anymore?
No. Used to World Series is always a WAV tire, and any other track you can run an RD12 in the right rear, but they got rid of that rule because the fact that you used to wear the RD12s out just way too quick. They're too soft. But they changed the right rear rule, but they actually left the left rear as it was. They got rid of the D10. That's the softest one available. Got rid of D10s. Went to an RD12, but I believe it should be a minimum of a D12. It doesn't have to be a D or a H12. That all the H and the D is just the construction. The H is what the Outlaws in California now run the H tire, which falls in line with the Outlaws. So when the Outlaws, for instance, come into California, the local guys there don't have to go and buy other tires because they've been using them tires all year. So it's a smart decision, I think. It's a cheaper tire. The Outlaws had it built. It doesn't grow. They had the tire built as a cheaper tire that didn't grow. The reason they want it to not grow was it puts more of the driver back into the race car. When you've got a left rear that grows, it stands up on exit or under acceleration and, it squares the car up and gets you down the straightaway. The other tyre, the H tyre, doesn't do that, which makes the driver and crew work harder. And ultimately, they'll try to do that to make better racing, which, the racing, as we'll see most weeks, in flow or dirt, it's the Vision, it's pretty good racing over there.
So obviously, America has a tyre shortage. Australia has a tyre shortage. Do you think it would help not only the racing product, but also with cost if we were just to run the same tyres that they do in the States?
I think so. I think it's a no-brainer. The guys over there cannot believe that we still run RD12s on the left rear. They're like, there's a worldwide tyre shortage, and they're still making soft left rears just for Australia pretty much, and I think New Zealand run them. That's the only place in the world that uses them, and it makes sense. We've got a tyre shortage. Let's not make soft tyres. Let's make a tyre that lasts a bit longer. And obviously the left rear is a bit smaller, of course, so it's doing a lot more work. And whenever a racetrack takes rubber, it's because the left rears are later down, and no fan, no competitor, no one wants to see rubber down racetracks. Mm-hmm. So, I believe by going to either a D12 or a H12, I think H12 would be the better option because it's cheaper. I think so makes for better racing. It's not going to lay rubber down. It's going to be cheaper for the team owners because they're not going to wear them out as quick. There's just so many benefits to go into a harder left rear compound. The fact is, some tracks would want to do that, make their own, they write their own subregs, but there's none in Australia. Max doesn't bring H12s to Australia. And there's obviously there's a massive tyre shortage, but even though years gone past when there isn't a tyre shortage, there's very minimum amount of D12s or 12 compound tyre brought into Australia. So it would be hard for a track to enforce that left rear tyre rule because there's none available.
Sure. So far, most tracks, their answer is to just reduce the racing by going to a one heat format. What do you think about that? And what are your thoughts on later this season with the bigger races like the Classic and over December, January, February, where the Australian title will be in Perth? What are your thoughts on those races and possibly their formats being affected?
I think the one heat format's good. Parramatta, back at the old Parramatta, we done that. Had a lot of good car count down there and a curfew. So the one heat format was enforced. There was a few disgruntled punters early, but in the end, I don't think many people had an issue with it. Everyone's never always happy. It's not a perfect world. So I think right now you have to, because obviously there's a tyre shortage. So I think it's a no-brainer. Like the NRL, the AFL, every sporting code around the world's had to adjust in these recent years, as everyone knows, for whatever way they've been affected. This is obviously on the back of COVID. We've got no tyres. Don't know the real reasons, but we have no tyres. So I think the national body should be the one governing this. What they do, they're the Control Council of Australia. They should be enforcing this one heat format. I think Australia-wide, Perth already do it, SRA do it, Toowoomba does it. I just think it's a no-brainer. I know the fans want to see two heats, but if we keep doing the amount of racing with two heats, dashes and all that, we will run out of tyres and you won't be seeing any racing, because I don't really believe people understand actually how big a situation this is. Like, it's a lot of people were aware of it last year, and I think this year it's actually really dawned on the other percentage. It is a major problem.
So recently, another brand called DirtX came into the fold. What are your thoughts on that being an option for your team?
Oh, mate, I spoke to Paul Solomon about this. He's obviously trying to perfect it. After talking to him, he's got a fair bit going on, and I think he's doing a hell of a job. I'm looking forward to it. I hope he gets some out here. I've offered to, we'll run some of the tests for him, get some laps on him. I'm happy to help out whatever we can do. We've got a couple of racetracks we can use to test that, so I'm happy to do that. I cannot see any negatives in having another tyre supplier when you have a tyre shortage. That's pretty black and white there. Someone else can bring tyres in the country. Well, let's have at it, because right now we don't have enough. We've already seen teams pull out of racing in Darwin. Like Veely won't race this weekend because he's trying to save his tyres. Our schedule is going to get cut down because we obviously, you're not going to go run around the traps for a couple of grand a win and use your tyre supply up because you can't replace them. And then you come to January, Boxing Day, January period, where obviously that's the pointy end of the season, and there's a lot more prize money up for grabs. You want to be in a better situation come then. So you've got to kind of play the end game a bit here. I know Max Mouse has told me they've got a bunch of right rears coming in early December, but I feel like, which is great, late, but better late than never. But we're going to run out of left rears. That's the word I'm hearing.
It's good to hear that you're happy to run a tyre like DirtX that, I guess hasn't been proven at this stage. But I've spoken to other big teams, and I know they're all keen to run it, whether it's the owners or the crew chiefs or drivers. They're all keen to see what that's all about. But with the current tyre situation costing so much money for the teams, the tracks reducing the racing, why do you think we haven't moved to a harder tyre or a different tyre as yet? Do you think maybe the manufacturer is a bit concerned that once we go to a harder tyre that we won't, as a sport, an industry, we won't want to go back to a softer compound?
I think I've heard from a few people who's they just did the late models. They've just simplified. The late models have a lot more different options for tyres than the sprint cars do.
We've got like 26 options or something like that.
Yeah, it's hectic. That stuff's a headache as it is, let alone having 26 different tyres you can choose from. But the sprint cars are a lot simpler, but I think they're looking to simplify that as well. And obviously Continental Tyres have bought Hoosier. So, sometimes you see that they try and tidy up the loose ends a little bit, the bean counters do. But I don't think it's a bad thing because they can just make one tyre that everyone uses, so to speak, worldwide, whether it's a H12, D12, I'm not stressed. But I just think, I know right now there's Australians that are racing in America coming back to Australia, and Americans that have got, surplus of tyres left over from America. Obviously they've been stockpiling and doing their best, and
sure.
They've got tyres, they've got H tyres, outlaw tyres they can bring to Australia, but our rule book won't allow it. So we have a tyre shortage.
Yeah.
And we have a rule book that says we can't bring in the H15 or the H tyre, whatever it is, H12, H15, don't matter.
Yeah.
But our rule book won't let us.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I think, like I said before, I think some adjustments need to be made for the current climate we're in. It's not ideal. Everyone admits that. But let's try and work together and make the best adjustments we can to get by.